thing about our sovereignty.
Gonna make you the 51st state, quite frankly, you're the governor.
He doesn't call me that.
Here we are, election day. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today we're going to be taking a look at the predictions here. Who's going to win this? I went down to my local polling station, waited around for about 15 minutes to see how many people were going through, so I have some footage of that. Got a couple clips here from CTV and CBC, who's obviously doing their best here to try to help Mark Carney win. And we've got Donald Trump trying to meddle in our election once again. Let's jump into this. So starting this one off, we've got Table Salt here. It says major breaking polling update along with Main Street and Abacus. Liaison now confirms significant tightening of the polls. Liaison Strategies is the that liberal pollster. It's interesting looking at these numbers, whether these are accurate or not. We'll find out today, but yes, it has tightened up here based on liberal polling. And we are seeing the PPC basically collapse and the Green Party collapse. And if we look back here, Jagmeet Singh used to be polling at 13 and now he's down to about 6 or 7%. So he has also collapsed. We got Sharaya T saying, here's the Atlantic seat results and what they mean tonight. So for the Conservatives, if they have less than 5, it'll be a liberal majority. That's what he believes. 5 to 6 will be a thin majority. 7 means a liberal minority. 8 means a conservative minority. Over 9 seats is a conservative majority. Atlantic polling will be closing soon, so we'll see what happens once they start counting. They won 8 seats in 2021 and still end up losing by 40. So that's an interesting note there. They're winning exactly 10. Some people saying 8 or 10. Moving ahead here, we've got the NDP will be hosting an election night victory party for Jagmeet Singh. More like a going away party. So we take a look at Jagmeet Singh's riding. He is losing today. Jagmeet Singh after today will not be a politician. So that is the one win that everyone can get from today. Everyone jump NDP, NDP. Yeah, no kidding. Next up, we got this one coming from Mario saying that 18 to 20-year-old men are coming out and voting conservative. How many is the question?
Just heard an awesome rumor that 18 to 22-year-old men are going out in record numbers because they're sick of the woke. Which makes sense because when Trudeau took office, they were between the ages of 8 and 12. Vote for change.
Vote for change. How many men will come out and vote? How many women will come out and vote for Pierre? Got this one from Canada Proud. It says, Carney can talk about being from Edmonton all he wants, but Edmonton wants Pierre.
We want Pierre! We want Pierre!
Conservatives all the way.
So I'm actually voting for change because, bro, everything right now is too expensive. Life is too expensive.
I would like to be able to afford a house sometime in my lifetime and also afford milk tomorrow.
Definitely not the Liberals. Oh, Pierre, probably have.
Yeah.
We had Trudeau in there. We saw what he can do. I think it's time for us to change.
I'm voting for Pierre because I want to change. Change.
Young guys coming out. This might save us. This might be the linchpin right here. Next up, we've got Pierre and Anna Poilievre going to the polls, casting his vote on the ridiculously long Carleton polling sheet, which you'll see here.
His wife Anna earlier, casting their ballots in the riding of Carleton, where Poilievre is running, here in the Ottawa region as well. This is a riding that's been targeted by this longest ballot campaign. It's a movement pushing for electoral reform by adding as many names as possible to the ballots. So in Poilievre's riding, there are 90 other candidates on the ballot. You can see just how long that is.
This is a waste of money. This group needs to pay for all the extra paper they've caused in this election.
So we saw when Poilievre and his wife were casting their ballots, poll workers were showing them and other voters how to cast this ballot, how to fold it up because it's so long. So you're actually supposed to fold it up into a square given the length of that page. Elections Canada will start counting advance ballots extra early here. They have special permission to do that. They're going to start 6 hours before.
So I guess they're counting those 6 hours beforehand. We'll see here in the next clip them trying to fold up this ridiculous ballot.
The ballots. I'm sure you saw over there. This big long one here. Once you march your Canada down X inside the circle, and you fold it over like this. Fold it over again. And once I turn this off, okay, thanks. There we go. And we're now you fold it over again.
Thank you so much.
Once more, so that my initial and the number here is visible. You are sir. Once you're done, ballot box.
You notice Mark Carney's riding doesn't have this super long ballot. There's always an attack on the Conservatives. Our country is completely corrupt. They have to fold this thing over 6 or 7 times just to fit it in the box. The idea is to hide Poilievre's name among 90 other names so people get confused and vote for the wrong person. Effing ridiculous. Who allowed this nonsense to happen? Another embarrassment in lack of leadership and judgment. Appalling. Elections Canada should be ashamed. It's absolutely insane. You cannot tell me this wasn't set up to make voting for Pierre more difficult. This idiocy stops today. Canada's done with this liberal bullcrap. Jumping over to the CBC, there's always David Cochrane and Rosemary Barton campaigning for Mark Carney. Then again, their funding comes from Mark Carney and the Liberals. Would you expect anything else?
Okay, Ginny, 4 or 5 months ago, the Liberals would have been lucky to get 40 seats. Now they're polling consistently around 40% or above. I mean, it's been the whole campaign has been transformed with Trudeau's departure and his arrival. What are your thoughts on?
It's been completely transformed. It's not like they wrote the entire thing and then just had Mark Carney come in. Oh, wait, they admitted they did that. That's right. That's what happened. They're so desperate to say it's completely different. Mark Carney's different. And all those Liberals that are exactly the same, they're different, but they're not. It's the same crap and the same flies.
Where the Liberals are right now, because we're going to talk about the Conservatives in a sec.
Well, first I would say the Liberal fortune started to improve before Trudeau stepped down. They started to improve when Canadians rallied around the flag because they felt threatened by Trump. They rallied around Premier Ford, they rallied around most premiers across the country, and they rallied around Trudeau. Carney.
I don't know if the Liberals are trying to work with Doug Ford so he can try to take over the Conservative Party. Pleb also mentioned this. I've mentioned this. If Doug Ford tries to make a run to take over the Conservatives from Pierre, all of us here on YouTube, on X, will be nuking Doug Ford. We'll dig up any parking ticket. We will dig up everything and anything on Doug Ford. He tried to torpedo Pierre's campaign. We will not forgive that. We will not forget that.
Then benefited from that even more as he kind of threw off some of the most unpopular policy commitments of the Trudeau government, the carbon tax, the capital gains change, and those things combined.
No, he just dropped the carbon tax to zero. He's going to jack it back up. This is Mr. Net Zero. If these guys actually did any research, they would see that this guy's rolling out his carbon credits agenda. That's the only thing I regret is I just didn't have enough time to fully flesh this out. But for example, getting more detail now on this project, Entropy Carbon Capture USA, Brookfield, a major investor in this company, $300 million investment with Brookfield Renewable. Well, what's also interesting is $200 million of our money from the Canada Growth Fund went into this project, and they were able to sign up through the Liberals, Justin Trudeau, a $2.55 billion deal over 15 years, an agreement to buy carbon capture 1 million tons of CO2 per year. This directly points at everything I made in that other video about carbon credits and Mark Carney and Brookfield getting rich off of it. They've been laying the groundwork for all this stuff for years. There's numerous of these companies, but this one here is one of the big ones. And this timeline here of the Liberals putting in green, eco, net zero carbon capture initiatives towards that goal. I populated this list with all the major points, but there's a lot more things here that could be and will be added over time. Despite if Carney loses, someone else will take over the Liberals and they'll likely keep pushing this agenda. Now, if Carney wins, you're just going to see this timeline increase all the way up here, just with more eco green, more carbon capture, more things that directly point to carbon credits.
Really lifted the Liberals' fortunes. The Conservatives are holding in tough. I mean, if you believe the polls, the Conservatives are at a high watermark for them as a modern party. Yep. And so whether the Liberals can deliver on this now and convert their very efficient vote into as many seats as possible, I guess we'll see.
You know, the Liberals have delivered nothing but misery for 10 years. So if the population of this country votes for an awful government again, what do we call that? This is just basically an IQ test. That's what this election is. It's an IQ test. Moving ahead, we've got this one posted by Corey. It says elections are the bedrock of democracy. That's why especially troubling when you see parties attempt to undermine them for their own benefit. So what we're seeing here is a Liberal come up and steal a Conservative door hanger and replace it with a Liberal one. Apparently in Nepean, all of Barbara Ball's signs were removed overnight. We're seeing a lot of election interference. It's disgusting. Moving ahead here, we've got Elizabeth May. Will May keep her seat? We sure hope not.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's all good. Let's start again.
Start again. Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for doing this work.
Oh, very much. How are you? Thank you very much.
How much is too much, mate? She's 70 or 71 years old. She's an awful politician. Well, congratulations, Elizabeth. You got at least one vote. I thought this post was interesting from United We Stand. It says, I wasn't 100% sold on Poilievre until tonight. So this was posted last night. This moment here did it for me. The pure and raw emotions. And yes, I cried too. I have no doubt in my mind that these two want nothing more than a better future, not only for their own children, but all of our children. This is a great moment. Does it translate to the polls? We'll be counting soon. Next up, we've got Donald Trump interfering on our elections. Again, can this guy buzz off? As Ryan Garrettson says, Carney called in a favor. Yeah, you gotta wonder. Mr. Burns at it again. What we're talking about here is this tweet. It says, good luck to the great people of Canada. Elect the man who has the strength and wisdom to cut your taxes in half, increase your military power for free and to the highest level in the world. Have your car, steel, aluminum, lumber, energy, and all other businesses quadruple in size with zero tariffs on taxes. If Canada becomes the cherished 51st state of the United States of America, no more artificially drawn lines from many years ago. Look how beautiful the landmass would be. Free access with no border, all positives with no negatives. It was meant to be. America can no longer subsidize Canada with hundreds of billions of dollars. That's all lies. Like, come on. Like we've been spending in the past, it makes no sense unless Canada is a state. So he's campaigning for himself. If you look at his polling numbers right now in America, they're pretty bad. You got people like Ben Shapiro really pissed off at Trump, how he's been kind of conducting himself with tariffs. Things get a little shaky in America. With that, Pierre Poilievre came out here and responded with, President Trump, stay out of our election. The only people who will decide the future of Canada are Canadians at the ballot box. Canada will always be proud, sovereign, and independent. We will never be the 51st state. Today, Canadians can vote for change so we can strengthen our country, stand on our own 2 feet, and stand up to America from a position of strength. He also did this in French. With that, they bring out a conservative strategist on CTV to talk about this.
Joining me now, conservative strategist Jamie Ellerton. Jamie, always appreciate your time. Thanks so much for joining us on Election Day, of course. What do you make of that right there? Trump inserting himself once again into the election conversation, as we've seen him do multiple times.
Yeah, it's starting to sound like a tired shtick, to be frank. I think Pierre Poilievre had it right in saying essentially, like, bug off, Canadians are going to decide our future. And I think it's clear if you look at what the president's had to say from the end of January onwards, this whole notion of 51st state stuff, I think has really rallied Canadians and woken us up to kind of our away from our perhaps sleepy indifference to politics and taking a real stake in this election campaign.
So if Pierre Poilievre succeeds in winning, what will be the driving factor, in your opinion, that winning message from the campaign?
I think when you look at what Pierre Poilievre has had to say, I think his biggest driver is focusing on a message of change. Of course, the Liberals have a new leader, but he effectively has the exact same team that was with Justin Trudeau. And I think when you look at what Pierre Poilievre has said as he's campaigned across the country, the kind of big three is going to be getting housing built, addressing the issues of crime and the kind of the increasing chaos in our cities, and just look at all the encampments at parks and cities across the country, large and small. And the last, of course, is on economic reform, specifically as it relates to getting government out of the way so that we can get energy and other infrastructure projects built in a way that improves our economic resiliency rather than further ties our hands behind our back with complacency and kind of government paralysis.
So, Jamie, throughout this campaign, we've talked about the importance of Quebec, the importance of vote-rich Ontario, and potentially the importance of British Columbia with so many three-way races out there, so many tight races out there as well. You yourself, specifically, any ridings or regions in particular that you will have your eye on tonight that could be a bellwether of where things might go?
Yeah, given the way our country is built and the way the polls close, we'll go from east to west. That kind of the two big ones that I'll be looking at tonight are Central Nova and Nova Scotia and Eglinton Lawrence right here in Toronto. If Conservatives have a good night in Central Nova and Eglinton Lawrence, I think that's going to speak very well to the results overall, even if those races are tight and not, or if they're not Conservative wins, even if they're tight, that bodes well for Conservative seats in the rest of Ontario and in other suburban ridings. So those are the two I'll have my eye on early tonight.
What it comes down to, either people are voting for the Conservatives to make prosperity come back to Canada, or they're voting to enrich Brookfield and Mark Carney. Thinking of opening a surf shop? blue wave coming. I voted for change, go Pierre, go. Look at these comments here. I don't see any Liberal comments. These are all in favor of Pierre. Vote Liberal, there's one. Not interested in his version of change. So 2 Liberal comments. There's about 35 comments for the Conservatives and about 6 for the Liberals in there. Next up, we got a clip here. This hour is 22 minutes with Mark Carney.
You know, Trump, you got to take him seriously, like take him literally and seriously. And so when he says the thing about our sovereignty,
gonna make you the 51st state, quite frankly, you're the governor.
He doesn't call me that.
What
He
the hell
doesn't
did
call
you
me
say
that.
to him? Because before all this, he was saying it's the 51st state, quite frankly, they're very weak. They're gonna call him the prime minister's the governor. And then you had a phone call with him, and he's like, the prime minister's not that bad, he's very smart, I'm looking for... What did you... Do you have, like, new Polaroids of him? I don't want to see him, but do you have them? What the hell did you say to him?
Well, one of the things...
Exactly. Does he have leverage on him? Who's got leverage on who? Going back to the trusty graph here, does Mark Carney have leverage over Donald Trump because Brookfield invested $1.1 billion into Kushner Properties here, 666 Fifth Avenue, and bailed him out? Now, Mark Carney didn't do this deal. It was back in 2018, but Mark Carney then came in later. And if there was evidence that Donald Trump did this as a favor to the Qataris then invested in Brookfield, and then Brookfield bailed out the Kushner Properties, this wouldn't look good on Trump. This would look very bad and hurt him in the midterms. So does Mark Carney have leverage on Trump? A lot of moving parts.
Look, he respects strength. And
yeah, but what'd you say?
Well, first,
now some people said that we have American bonds, and that you maybe threatened to sell those off to kind of hurt the American dollar. And is there any truth in that?
I couldn't possibly comment, but that's like...
Mark Carney's got to be one of the most devious people in Canadian politics ever. I don't trust a word this guy says. So I just arrived at my polling station here. I've already voted in the early polling, but just to take a look, it's actually pretty busy here for about, 1:20 in the afternoon here in this small town. So there's quite a few cars here, actually. I've been standing here about 20 seconds and 6 new cars have come in. So there's a lot of people coming through right now. So I've been sitting out here for about 14 minutes. I've counted 87 people who've come in to vote. There's actually a guy back there that was ranting. He was pretty mad. He had to go over to a different riding to vote on the other side of town. They won't let him vote here, but he started going on a rant about how much he doesn't like Jagmeet Singh. Now we wait. We wait to count the votes. We wait to see if the Conservatives win. A bunch of you have asked if I'm going to be jumping on any sort of live streams. I will be jumping on Elevate's live stream tonight. Aside from that, I know there's a bunch of other ones going on. I haven't been invited to any other ones. Key thing to look at when it comes to counting the votes, it's not Atlantic Canada, it's Ontario. Once Ontario starts counting, we see the results coming in, then we're going to get a real sense of who's going to win this election.